One Piece, chapter 1099 is here, and we are here to talk about it. But before we get started though, if you're a regular here, please consider subscribing, and also this channel is partnered with NordVPN, and they have a really nice deal where you get 4 months for free when signing up for a 2-year subscription. So yeah, with that being said, let's get to the chapter now. So, first thing we have is a cover page with Odin and 3 Tanukis. It's another reader-requested one. I feel like I say that every week now. It's a reoccurring theme. With every week that passes, I get more and more fiendish for a canon cover page story. I wonder when Oda's gonna bring it back. Maybe he's holding it back because the events around the world right now are just that crazy. So, you guys know how this goes. With every reader-requested cover page, we try to look deep into it. We try to get some weird theory out there. This time around, I have nothing. I just love the fact that Odin is actually front and center again, considering he is a dead character, and it gives me more hope that in the future we'll see other characters pop up that are dead. And maybe we'll get Roger, maybe we'll get Ace, Ryuma. There's a lot of possibilities out there, and I love that this reader requested one opened that door. So there was actually a comment from the previous video that had a theory saying that maybe this cover page is foreshadowing Blackbeard's arrival in Wano, mainly because there's 3 Tanuki, and we do know that Blackbeard is closely associated to the number 3. Honestly, I don't think it's a bad theory, considering Shanks himself even thought that Blackbeard was going to go to Wano. And then we do still have the mystery of Caribou and that man. He did say that he wanted to tell that man that Pluton was in Wano. Is that man Blackbeard? We have no clue yet, but if it is, maybe this is some sort of cover page foreshadowing. So now, on to the actual chapter. We pick up where we left off last week, and we have Kingbori setting the south side of Sorbet on fire. This man has been gone for 16 years, and he actually changed his appearance a little bit. I don't know how many of you guys have paid attention to Kingbori's design, but his mustache got a little bit longer. But that's not the only thing that changed about Kingbori, because this time around he is way more ruthless. He heard about the events at Goa Kingdom and how they burned down Great Terminal, and he said, wow, let me copy that. And that is why he wants to burn down the south side of Sorbet. He said, this is the root of all of our problems. It's been 16 years since I've been here, but we gotta burn this down. Honestly, Kingbori is just one giant meme. I mean, he even has that suffering from success pose going on over there in the bottom left corner. It's just ridiculous. He's like a comic book villain, because you think burning down a village is bad enough, right? You have people rioting, and what Kingbori says to do in response to people rioting over his insane decision is to shoot and kill 4 or 5 of them. But thankfully, Kuma rushes in to stop the madness, and holy crap, we have never seen Kuma this angry and this serious before. Kuma already lost Ginny. He's not gonna lose Bonnie and the elders of this village who he's grown to see as his family. He is not gonna let Kingbori do this to him. So yes, Kuma goes there and he lets loose a giant Urusu shock. And all I gotta say is that Kingbori, oh man, he survives this attack and comes back later. And I'll talk more about Kingbori later, because that man is actually ridiculous. So moving on, thanks to Kuma's actions, he becomes the elected king of Sorbet Kingdom. And this gets a lot of unwarranted attention, most notably from Saint Saturn. And, you know, I like to look at the background details, and the person who's telling Saint Saturn about this has an interesting design, to say the least. This isn't just like a random Marie Joie bodyguard. This guy could be a Holy Knight. And here's the thing, we're in the final saga, we're gonna have to meet the Holy Knights eventually, so why not, right? Maybe this is Oda showing us the back of this guy's head, because he does have this weird, like, almost foxy-like appearance going on. Of course, though, I don't want to go all in on the theory that this could be a Holy Knight, because just looking at his coat, it reminds me a lot of CP0. So if you go and look at pretty much almost all the CP0 members out there, they have this weird style. I mean, it's not weird, it's cool. But they have this style where they all wear their jackets, and they just let the sleeves hang. And that's exactly what this guy's doing right here. So, in my opinion, I'm leaning more towards this being a CP0 agent, but it would be nice if Oda started giving us more hints as to who the Holy Knights are current day. So we cut back to Kuma, and it turns out that he is actually not the true king of Sorbet Kingdom. that belongs to King Bulldog. Kuma is only king in name to act as a deterrent against outside forces. This may be an odd comparison, but it's kind of like Kaido being stationed in Wano, right? Green Bull was like, hey, if Kaido was here, you know, like we wouldn't have been here in the first place. But now that Kaido's gone, we're gonna go there. Kuma is Sorbet Kingdom's version of Kaido. Kuma led the one-man revolution. Do you really want to go there and fight him? Most people would say no, but there is one character that we'll get to here in a bit who actually wants to run that gauntlet. But hey, we go on a little bit though, and we see that Bonnie just out of nowhere, it was kind of like a jarring jump, but we go from talking about King Bulldog, and then boom, who's that lady running around in church? Bonnie? Yes, Bonnie ends up eating the Toshi no Mi off screen, and honestly, it's kind of shocking that this just randomly happened when Bonnie cannot leave the church in the first place. How did she get her hands on a devil fruit? I have no clue, but we do have to remember that devil fruits are very random. So going back to Punk Hazard, when Smiley, the giant axolotl poison cloud that Caesar made, died, an apple just 5 feet away from Smiley actually transformed into the axolotl fruit. So yeah, devil fruits just do pop up out of nowhere. You don't have to pluck it from a tree per se. Like in Bonnie's case, the most rational explanation as to how she ate the Toshi no Mi is that maybe Bonnie was eating fruit for dinner, and while she was eating them, one of them just so happened to turn into a devil fruit. So Bonnie starts testing out her devil fruit. She ages herself up and down to see what it's all about. And this is where we get introduced to potentially my favorite gag in the entire series thus far. Queen Connie and Bonnie being mistaken for each other. I know that sounds silly, but it was actually a really lighthearted moment, and considering how heavy the past couple of chapters have been, this is a nice relief from all of that. And also, I love that Oda brought in Queen Connie into this flashback, because this explains what happened at Marie Joie. Bonnie aged herself up, and she disguised herself as Queen Connie, and the guards let her go. And a lot of people, myself included, kind of thought that they were related, right? Bonnie, Connie, she was the former queen of Sorbet Kingdom, or, you know, some form of royalty. So we were all assuming that, yeah, they're somewhat related. Turns out that's not the case. Queen Connie is just King Bulldog's mother. I still feel like there could be some deeper connection there because the names are still a little bit strange to me. And also, like, they look the same when they get older, right? It's not a coincidence. Women in One Piece age so drastically and so vastly different. You're telling me Bonnie and Connie just so happen to look the same? I don't know. I'm still looking at that one, but obviously it could just be a little bit of a gag going on. But you know what else is a gag? Kingbori. Kingbori is plotting another comeback. He wants to fight Kuma one more time. I don't know what possessed this man to think he can beat Kuma, but hey, he has the world government, he has the Marines backing him. Maybe this time something's gonna be different, right? Kuma had to use a giant Urusu shock to beat Kingbori. Maybe it was a high div fight. We have no idea. We didn't see it. It was off screen. It's like Akainu versus Aokiji. We don't know what happened. I know Bulldog is the king of Sorbet Kingdom, but oh my gosh, Kingbori has that dog in him. One thing I do want to make note of is that this newspaper is significant. I am a huge proprietor. I've been throwing Big News Morgans up on a pedestal. The articles that Big News Morgans post, they matter. News quite literally controls the narrative of the world. You might be wondering why I'm putting so much emphasis on Big News Morgans and his newspapers, but that's mainly because I do believe that it has significance in our current storyline here on Egghead. Big News Morgans posted an article about the Straw Hats' barricade on Egghead yesterday. A lot of people read the newspaper, and I think there is a high chance that someone must have read that, and they're on their way to help the Straw Hats, whether it be the Grand Fleet, whether it be Dragon, we don't know yet, you guys tell me. But I do think Big News Morgans should not be undersold. So with this news breaking, Kuma makes a very difficult decision. He says that he doesn't want Kingbori to set foot on Sorbet Kingdom. He doesn't want to risk the lives of those around him right now. So he is going to go face Kingbori off at sea, and once he takes him down, he's going to have to leave the kingdom for a while because he will be branded as a pirate. So Kuma ends up confronting Bokori off at sea, and he destroys them, completely wipes them out. You see a burning ship in the distance. It looks like the Mary just got burned down one more time. It is that bad. And here's the thing, man. You know, I really hope that Kuma has learned his lesson and put King Bokori down for good. We can't keep letting this man get away, right? Dragon beat him, and then King Bokori came back later. Kuma beat him, King Bokori came back later. We just have to say enough is enough and just say goodbye to him forever, you know what I mean? But you know what, though? I gotta admit, I admire King Bokori's tenacity, right? He went down swinging. He didn't want to throw those fists down, brother. But yeah, we go on, and after beating Bokori, Kuma finally got his first bounty. Honestly, kind of shocking considering the fact that Kuma has been with the revolutionaries for quite some time, and this is his first official bounty from the looks of it. But yeah, Kuma has a bounty now. And while Oda did hide the bounty in this chapter, we do know what his frozen warlord bounty was, and I doubt it's too far off. Kuma's frozen bounty was 296 million, so I wouldn't be surprised if this one is at least like 100 million-ish, and then he just kind of works his way up as he travels around the world. And boy, does Kuma travel. He ends up going from island to island searching for a cure to Bonnie's sapphire scale disease. And it's really sad because you see him hold up this picture of Bonnie just showing people like, hey, can you cure this? And he just gets greeted with the same answer over and over. What I love most about this is that it's an amazing tie-in, an explanation as to how Kuma knew where to send the Straw Hats back in Sabaody, right? We see him go to Torino Kingdom. He goes to Mihawk's Muggy Kingdom for some reason, right? Imagine just randomly entering Mihawk's domain. That's kind of insane. He goes to Karakuri Island. He goes to Tequila Wolf, Weatheria, and even the Boeing Archipelago. We also get this weird panel in the midst of all of it, and I can't tell where that actually is. If I had to guess, it could be the place that Brook went to, but I was expecting to see like long arm, long leg people, and in that panel there's none of them there, so it could just be a random island to be honest. The only islands we don't see Kuma visiting from the Straw Hats timeskip adventure would be Brook's Island, potentially if it's not the middle panel, Kamabaka Queendom, and Amazon Lily. So Kuma not going to Kamabaka Queendom makes a lot of sense. He doesn't need to go there, right? He already knows Ivankov, he already knows Inazuma. They probably cannot cure Bonnie and have already told him that. So now, Amazon Lily. When did Kuma go there and geomark it with this devil fruit? Maybe it was during his time along with the Revolutionary Army, and if that is the case, then there could be something there. There could be some crazy theories as to what happened with Amazon Lily, Kuma, and potentially Dragon. But we'll leave that for a different day. So, another thing that pops up in this montage is actually Jeet and Abdul. I don't know why they're here. Like, out of every tie-in we could get in the entire series, Kuma just so happens to run into two members from the Straw Hat Grand Fleet current day. While Jean and Abdullah are a really funny cameo to have here, I do love why they're here, right? We don't often see bounty hunters nowadays. So Oda bringing back in the concept of bounty hunters in this flashback, it's just really nice. And also, this does validify why Kuma has to leave Sorbet Kingdom now that he has a bounty. If Kuma had a bounty and lived in Sorbet Kingdom with Bonnie, these maniacs, right? They're good people now, but these current maniacs would be attacking the kingdom, and Kuma wouldn't like that too much. So after Kuma visits all those islands, he ends up running into Dragon again. And I just love that every time we see Dragon, there's always the wind swooshing effect in the background. Dragon and wind is like wet on water. You cannot separate the two. So yes, they end up running into each other, and they just kick it back and have a good old beer, right? They're catching up. They're like, hey, Ivankov, Inazuma, they're in prison. No big deal. How are you doing, Kuma? And Kuma ends up telling him about the situation and how, you know, it's kind of fruitless so far. He doesn't really have a good idea on how to cure Bonnie's illness yet. But in the middle of this dialogue, we do have Bella Betty jumping in, and she's like, hey, Kuma, before you guys get to business, can I be the East Army commander? Apparently, Dragon wouldn't let me do it until you gave your say-so. And I love that. I love that Dragon is putting respect on Ginny's former position. And might I say, I really like Dragon this chapter. I love that Dragon was kicking it back, hanging out, right? He even gave Kuma like the little chest bump at the very end. I love this version of Dragon. Because beforehand, we've never really seen Dragon smile. You know, if you go back and look at all the panels of Dragon, he's always like very stoic, right? Always looking off in the distance. This is one of the first times we've actually seen him relax a little bit. I just love that Dragon is getting more and more screen time as this final saga is progressing. So during Kuma and Dragon's conversation, two main things happen. The first one is Dr. Vega Punk. Dragon says, hey, Punk Hazard kind of had an explosion thanks to Caesar. He didn't say that, but we do know that it's because of Caesar. And now Vegapunk isn't going to be heavily guarded on his brand new island, which is current day Egghead Island. You should go visit him, Kuma. This is the best time and probably the best doctor that could potentially cure Bonnie's sickness. Another thing we get is Kuma's willingness, or at least his desire, to work with Dragon again in the future once Bonnie is cured. So Kuma says, if I can cure Bonnie's disease, I'll be ready to fight by your side once more. And then Dragon, we already talked about this before, but Dragon says, hey, go where the wind of fate takes you, my friend. Here's the thing. I feel like Kuma has been done dirty this entire series. Nothing has really gone Kuma's way. This right here is a promise that has yet to be fulfilled. If I had to guess, this might be the last time Kuma saw Dragon, because after this, Kuma starts being modified and gets turned into a pacifista, and of course, Ivankov and Inazuma, they have no idea what's going on with Kuma. A lot of people have no idea what is going on with Kuma past this point. So Kuma never gets to fight alongside Dragon again. And that is why I am a solid believer, right? This is my crazy theory, but I think that if Kuma shows up on Egghead Island, I want to believe that Dragon is going to show up and they will fight alongside each other one last time. That might be a little bit of hopium, but I just feel like Kuma deserves it, right? So we go on a little bit. Kuma goes back to Sorbet Kingdom, picks up Bonnie, and brings her to Dr. Vegapunk. And wow, his head is ginormous. Obviously, we already knew that Vegapunk had a crazy head, but the way Oda paneled it, you know what I'm talking about. If you read the chapter, you know what I'm talking about. The way Oda paneled the first meeting of Dr. Vegapunk, I actually thought there was a dialogue box to the left that wasn't filled in. Turns out that's actually just Dr. Vegapunk's ginormous head. He is a monster. Kuma and Bonnie both think he looks ridiculous. Vegapunk throws that sentiment right back at him, telling him that he's never seen a human shaped like Kuma before and that he wants to run some blood tests. He finds out that Kuma is actually a buccaneer and he loses his mind. He says, wow, please be the model to my clone army project. And Vegapunk is just going off, and it feels really good, right? They both have great intentions. Vegapunk wants to create an army of robots that stops evil doers. Kuma wants to help out. Kuma wants world peace. So when he hears Vegapunk's dream and idea, he's all on board. And here's the thing. Since Kuma is pretty much dead in the current story, right? He's a full-blown robot with no consciousness. I feel like the pacifistas are Kuma's legacy. He wants the clone army. He wants to use his Buccaneer DNA and his image for good. So that's why even if Kuma perishes in this arc, I don't feel too sad about it because Kuma's legacy will always live on in these robots. One thing I really loved and I found kind of wholesome was that in the background, while this entire big conversation is going on, we actually see Bonnie and Sentomaru playing around. And now all I'm wondering is when will Kizaru pop up and meet Kuma and Bonnie as well? Because, you know, going to the chapter, I believe it's chapter 1092, we know that Kizaru knew Bonnie from the past as a little girl. Kizaru in that chapter says, "You've grown a bit taller, Bonnie. Kids these days sure grow fast." Kind of, you know, throwing a jab towards her Toshi Toshi no Mi. And then before he kicks her, Kizaru says, "Please don't make me hurt more old friends than I have to for this mission." So it does imply that pretty soon, possibly next chapter, Kizaru will stop in. And I feel like that is notable, right? Kizaru has already spoken multiple times about how he does not like this mission. He has to kill pretty much everybody he knows. And now, if we get the relationship between Kuma and Kizaru, it's gonna make things really sad once Kuma does show up here on Egghead Island. So while a majority of this chapter has been somewhat wholesome, we do end on a very sour note, right? We cut over to Marijois, and it turns out that Saint Saturn has been wiretapping Vegapunk this entire time. And this man, just like Kingbori, this man is a comic book villain. He hears Vegapunk's idea about the pacifistas, and he says, the clone soldiers are meant to be weapons. A weapon's worth is defined by how many people it can kill. Vegapunk is a fool for not making the most of this chance. No matter, I have my own ideas. And boy howdy, does Saint Saturn horrendously cook here. So, he's most likely the reason why they have the hierarchy chip, right? Saint Saturn wants to use these pacifistas for evil, so he probably tells Vegapunk to put that hierarchy in place. And also, he's the reason why Kuma gets turned into a pacifista as well. Because based on Vegapunk and Kuma's dialogue in this chapter, it seems like Vegapunk just has to model Kuma. He just has to take some of Kuma's blood and test it out. He doesn't have to turn Kuma into a pacifista. That is most likely Saint Saturn's idea. Which makes sense, right? Kuma is a buccaneer. He knew what happened at God's Valley. We got to put this man down in Saint Saturn's perspective. So now, all I'm wondering is whether or not Saint Saturn will come face to face with Kuma again next chapter. Because here's the thing, Bonnie, going back to that chapter I quoted previously, Bonnie goes through Kuma's memories, and she realizes that Vegapunk is not the problem. She tells Kizaru, let's just say, I realized that the person I should be targeting is someone else. So Kuma probably knows who gave Vegapunk the orders to turn him into a full-blown pacifista. So there is a high chance that Saint Saturn is going to be either name-dropped to Kuma next chapter, or they'll come face-to-face. And I am looking forward to it. I am looking forward to the day when Saint Saturn gets what's due to him, because this guy's evil, man. But do you know what, though? Next chapter, I can feel it already. I can smell it from here. It's gonna be amazing. Chapter 1100. Maybe Kuma shows up on Egghead Island. Maybe Dragon does. I have no clue. But I feel like next chapter will be the end of the flashback, and we might even get a crazy reveal, right? Oda loves the numbers. You can't tell me Oda does not love the 100s. Chapter 100 was the first chapter when we saw Dragon, and Chapter 1000 was Luffy's introduction on the rooftop. I feel like something's cooking here, but who knows? So now that we made it to this part of the video, time to go into the comments from the previous video. The first comment says, I think Bonnie choosing to stay in her adult form is very simple. Most kids can't wait to be grown-ups. I'm sure she doesn't like it when someone treats her as a kid and always chooses to stay as an adult for that reason. And I agree with this, because Bonnie is able to lead a pirate crew after this flashback. If it turns out my captain is a little kid, I wouldn't want to follow them. So yes, it does make a lot of sense as to why Bonnie chooses to stay in her adult form all the time, despite actually being just 12 years old. So now, the next comment says, I personally think that Kuma has 2 more chapters left on this flashback, showing Kizaru's relationship with Kuma, Vegapunk, and Bonnie, and how Saturn will take advantage of that and make Kuma a brainless soldier. And the last chapter, showing why he protected the Straw Hats and his last goal of protecting the Sunny, showing how he felt about them before officially becoming a robot. No, don't do it, man. No. I would absolutely love this, but it would be that much sadder. But that is a really great idea, and seeing how Kuma felt when Zoro took the pain bubble from Luffy, seeing Kuma's inner monologues about when he first met Luffy, and of course Sabaody. Like, imagine if we see Kuma's perspective and Kuma's like, oh no, Kizaru's here, I gotta save them, right? I would love this, and I think this is a really good idea. The next comment, I love this meme so much. The next comment says, the final villain of the series isn't going to be either Blackbeard nor Emu. It's going to be Kingbori. You heard it here first. Thumbs up. Hey, all I gotta say is that Oda has been teasing a character in the series with an eye patch, right? Oda said that by the end of the series, we're going to meet a guy in an eye patch. We have not met that character yet. In this chapter, Kingbori, he had bandages on his eye. Maybe, give him a time skip. Maybe he has an eye patch. And hey, when Kuma beat Kingbori, he set his ship on flames. He could even be the man marked by flames. You never know. You never know nowadays. And now the last comment of the night says, I can't help but feel that when Kuma gets to Egghead Island, he is either going to get in the ancient robot, or his memories and consciousness will somehow transfer over to the robot to combat Saturn. I also think that Kuma does not make it off of Egghead Island. I agree. There's no world where I can see that Kuma gets out of here alive. But Kuma transferring his consciousness for a little bit into the ancient robot, fighting Saturn, I would love that. And here's the thing, the ancient robot in this flashback of this chapter should be on this island. That robot has been out of commission for 200 years. So there's a good chance that Kuma even sees it and has this idea beforehand. And of course, we do know that Kuma stores his memories here on Egghead, so maybe he had a plan with that. I don't know. And not to mention, there is this weird parallel between Kuma and the ancient robot. We learned that the ancient robot climbed the Red Line and attacked the Holy Land. And that's essentially what Kuma did here. Of course, he could just be on his way to Egghead Island and he crashed into the Red Line and had to climb it. But he did climb the Red Line and attack Marie's Rod nonetheless. So yeah, there is that weird semi-connection, and I can totally see something between the two of them happening. But hey, thank you guys so much for stopping by and checking out this video. I really freaking appreciate it. If you made it this far, please consider liking, commenting, and subbing down below. And yeah, shout outs to the Patreon members and channel members on the side. You guys are the freaking best. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. Signing out.